like, for example, when a woman's upset, most men do what they would want when they're upset. They leave her alone. Like they would like to be left alone. Very few women want to be left alone when they're upset.
Hi,
Hello,
Alison.
Hi there.
We are so grateful to have you here with us. Like, we are so honored. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here, but I was wondering, I'm like, why me? Why did they invite me?
Really?
What do you mean?
Oh my goodness.
Well, if you would tell me about it's partly like, who is your audience? What do you want from me? I can follow you anywhere, but fertology?
Oh, yes, very good.
Yes.
Fertility, it's a made-up word. And basically, we help people boost their lives from all the transitions of life, from trying to conceive to during pregnancy to postpartum to menopause. And isn't relationship and intimacy all entwined throughout that? So, of course, you're like integral. What are you talking about?
Yeah. In order to make babies and then have excellent, committed, connected relationships throughout all of the chaos, and you changed my life, basically. That's why I was like, Mary, you have to listen to Alison. I heard your, podcasts and read your books like 4 years ago, and I've been following you. You just don't know that I've been doing that for 4 years.
She's been stalking you.
So I have, and I was so excited to have you on today. I was like, Mary, we have to meet before, because normally we're just like off the cuff, but I was like, we need to know exactly what questions. We only have her for an hour. She's like my idol. So
and you have become that for me as well, just so you know. I've been following your stuff since Tanya has been introducing me, actually through COVID, really. Yeah. So yes. Anyway, so we're thrilled that we get to share your work and who you are as a human being, and love your book. And I'm a reformed non-frog farmer, I guess.
Me too.
It's an ongoing process.
That's I was going to say. To be honest, I'm still probably a frog farmer, but aspire not to be.
Reformed, ongoing.
Yes.
Yeah.
A year ago, I was majorly frog farming my boyfriend. And it was as if I lost all my tools, all my perspective. I mean, after my husband died, I didn't think I ever wanted to be in another relationship. And then here I was, right? And I left my house and my friends, and I moved to be in the same city with him, and was just everything hit the fan.
And the pattern started. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
It's so hard.
So I have a lot of compassion for the ongoing process.
Yes, it is an ongoing process.
Right.
Absolutely.
And people dating and trying to figure it out and find a healthy match, it's like, it's a big deal. So Alison Armstrong is a phenomenal author, educator, and speaker, and has been studying men since the 90s. I'm jumping in. She has helped thousands of women and men transform themselves and their relationships through her books and courses. We will share her links to her website and courses in the show notes. Our hope is that this conversation inspires you to dig deeper into her work. Alison, your work has really helped us both to better understand what we as humans can do to better our relationships and intimacy to self and others. And we are so grateful for your work and insights into self and personal relationships. I'm still digesting your work, and I discovered you 4 years ago. You completely changed my direction in life, whether or not you recognize that. Yeah, you helped me to understand the difficulties in my relationship with my ex-husband, change myself as a person to manifest a healthy, better matched partner. Your work helps me communicate better with my son and the men in my life. And honestly, all the relationships are better because of your work. And your work helped me to be a better doctor. And of course, the learning and growing never ends. I'm constantly turning to your work. When there's an issue that comes up, I work on changing my perception of whatever the issue is and whatever arises. And so I'm constantly listening. You're phenomenal. And I want other people to hear you. And so we're so grateful to share you today with our viewers.
Thank you. In all that, honestly, I just keep hearing your courage to make choice after choice after choice in the face of instincts completely driven by some kind of fear, and what you've had to do in the face of that Way to go. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's amazing how you can, someone across the planet, you can take advice and just, process that information like human to human and feel connected, even though in your like hours of feeling the most disconnect. So thank you.
You're welcome. Process. Am I hearing a Canadian accent?
Oh, yes.
We are Canadian.
Yes. I guess we should have introduced ourselves as such. Yeah, we're both in like Toronto and surrounding area. And, one of the reasons that is so crucial is that we're both practitioners. And as such, we see a lot of women, and not just women, we see a lot of strong, self-sufficient women who feel like they're doing it all. And maybe even like the primary breadwinner in relationships, and, feeling like they're just doing it all to the point of perhaps overwhelm, right? And no matter what stage of life they're in, whether they're actually trying to conceive or maybe even finding a partner, to like having a partner and like having kids and just overwhelmed and burnt out. So we want to ask you about what advice you can give to that woman who deeply craves intimacy from her partner. And how would you handle this? Like to, a single person wanting a partner to propose to them, to like just wanting better connection in general. Like if they're trying to conceive and like their sex has been like just solely baby focused, right? We would just love your thoughts on all this.
It's the difference between sex and making love, intimacy. And I remember talking to women about don't date your type. They'll make you crazy because they activate all our instincts. And they were shocked that I had sex with my husband when he wasn't my type and before chemistry had built. Just like, you had sex without chemistry? And I'm like, it's called affection.
Wow. That's amazing, right? Because we're in this romanticized world where, and you watch movies and it's always about romantic love, and yet
Disney.
Yeah, Disney, right. And yet I've seen some of the most incredible relationships, even in what do you call them? Arranged marriages, where they learn, but they still had their own autonomy. The parents would set them up, but they still had their final say. And even though it may not start at love at first sight, it's like that deep understanding and connection and listening is what you're speaking about. That's beautiful. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. I was doing everything that normal women do, and I was talking to a man about how it was going. And he said something that changed the course of my life. He said, that's all circumstances, right? Because I was looking for compatibility and this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm not looking for that, what do I look for? And he said, try resonance. And I looked up in a dictionary but even before that, I already knew what he was talking about. Resonance. Who do I have resonance with? And I thought, oh, that Greg guy with the funny hair.
That's awesome.
We were married for 26 years before he passed. And, but resonance, it means to resound. So if you think about who are the people around whom you feel amplified, that you're even more the version of yourself that you most want to be. It's just naturally bigger around that person. And what I would say to Greg is, I married you because you have my favorite self. Or around you is when my favorite version of myself shows up. And it just did, because of how he was and how he related to me and how he listened to me and how he looked at me. And I was comparing pictures a couple weeks ago of when we were first together, the look in his eyes, and the last picture taken of him and the look in his eyes. Exactly the same. almost 3 decades later. So,
wow.
But instinctually, that's not what we're going to look for. We're going to look for genetic inheritance for our children, like my son's father, Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome Genius, who, oh my gosh, now I make him laugh because I'm so myself. But by the time we got divorced after 7 years, I'd only made him laugh twice because I was so not funny around him. Oh my gosh. But my son's genetic inheritance paid out. Chemistry's smart about the survival of the species. It just doesn't know squat about happiness and fulfillment and a good parenting partner and all that other stuff.
That's awesome. So what do you do though when you have a couple that are having challenges? So it's like, do you just all of a sudden say, okay, I give up because it seems like we're mismatched? Or can it be resolved? Can this be learned behavior? When you talk about the Queen's Code, like, can it be learned so that you can resolve the issues within the partnership that you have currently?
I'm of two minds about it. As long as there's communication, I think anything is possible. And when we can find out, like in the Queen's Code, women find out how we've been disrespecting and misinterpreting men. In our online course, Understanding Women, both men and women find out how we haven't understood women. We're constantly scaring the pucky out of them and communicating, I don't admire you, I don't respect you. And we don't even mean to. Men have tremendous admiration and respect for women. They just have opposite instincts in how they show it. And like, for example, when a woman's upset, most men do what they would want when they're upset. They leave her alone. Like they would like to be left alone. Very few women want to be left alone when they're upset. That means you don't care about me, right? And the very least, come ask me, do you want to be left alone? Or one of the reasons I'm with my boyfriend is because unless I close the door, which I told him, if I close the door, I'm protecting you from me. Don't come in. Otherwise, come get me. And he does. He always comes and gets me. Like, you want to hug it out? You want to talk? He's very courageous. So, yeah, I would call it reaching. If we're reaching towards each other, so much can happen that's amazing, including like with Greg, so not my type at all, no chemistry at all, just this magnetic attraction of just joy being around him. And then I started looking for what I later could connect the dots causes chemistry. That in women, what causes chemistry is the perception of strength. So I started looking for his strength. And the first place I found it was in his hands. I looked down at his hand. We were sitting next to each other at breakfast. I looked down at his hands and I was like, oh. He had these long, intelligent fingers, and then he had these thick, broad palms. And I mean, I was just amazed, right? And I had a visceral reaction.
Wow. So you mean physical strength,
Well, that's one way, physical strength. And I actually have taught smaller statured men to offer to arm wrestle a woman. Like on a date, like
That's funny.
it doesn't seem like I can take care of you. Would you like to arm wrestle? And I tell them, don't put her down. Just don't let her move your arm. And men are so much stronger than women. Even small men are so much stronger than us because of testosterone that they can just, I said, just hold it. Just hold it. And she's until she's doing everything. She's got two arms going. She's doing everything, trying to move your arm. Just hold it until it dawns on her and you'll see it in her eyes. Oh. But so it can be physical strength, which is why height has such an impact on us in a bad way. It often brings out the worst in us because we're too attracted. But it also can be integrity, which is one of the appeals of what we would call bad boys, because someone who's willing to defy authority, that's a kind of strength, right? Intelligence. I'm such a sucker for vocabulary as a wordy, right? Dan will use these words, and I call it a jump start as we talk about the Queen's Code. He'll say something, I'm like, what? You just used what? And he's such a funny contrast, my first impression of him, I called him Mr. Rough and Ready. And then these words come out of his mouth in between the two of them. It's a good thing I'm really clear about boundaries. And before I ever met him in person and had all those reactions, we'd already worked out a whole bunch of deal breakers before we decided, okay, let's find out who we can be for each other now that we know these things are aligned. Now we'll meet in person, which I recommend people do. You add the physical component and you can get really stupid really fast, either with chemistry or with dismissing someone because you don't have chemistry.
Right.
We can cause chemistry. We seriously can cause it. We just have to go looking for strength. And it shows up in so many forms. It can be loyalty, it can be support.